I have made a career out of betting on the UFC, and these are the cards I live for. UFC 326 is an amazing card. There are some underdogs that Las Vegas is sleeping on. There's some favorites that probably should be much wider favorites, and the entire card is littered with banger fights and great entertaining matchups. In this video, I'm going to go through the entire fight card and give you my betting breakdown and predictions for every single fight on the card. Welcome to the official UFC 326 edition of the lucrative MMA betting show. And this week, we are back in Las Vegas, Nevada, where we have a crazy main event rematch matchup, which is Max Holloway taking on Charles Oliveira for the BMF belt. Baddest mother is going to be crowned. Will Max Holloway keep his crown, or will Charles Oliveira win the official title of BMF in the UFC? In the co-main event, we have a middleweight matchup where both guys are still gunning for that middleweight title one day. Borralho takes on Reinier, two grappling phenoms to some degree, face off inside the UFC's octagon. We have a classic veteran versus up-and-comer matchup in Rob Font as he takes on Raul Rosas Jr., undefeated in his last 4 fights, looking to smash into the rankings with a big win over Rob Font. Speak about a rematch in the main event. We have a rematch even later down the card with Gregory Rodrigues rematching Brunno Ferreira. Brunno Ferreira smashed Rodrigues with a knockout in round 1 as a big underdog in their first matchup. Will he be able to do it again? We have Cody Brundage on the card. I always have to give Cody a shout out when he's on the card. We have Drew Dober versus Michael Johnson. Cody Durden, Cody Garbrandt is on the card. This is a card littered with fighters that are well known to UFC fans and bettors, and I'm very excited to go through the entire card with you and break every single fight down. Put your seatbelt on. This is a pay-per-view. This is going to be an exciting one. Run the intro, and I'll see you on the other side. What's up, boys and girls? Welcome back to another show. Very excited to get into this one with you. Before we get into it, I want to say thank you because I've just looked at my subscriber analytics and 60% of the people who watch my videos are subscribed. Only 40% are not. Before it was 50-50. So 10 extra percent of you subscribed. Very thankful for that. If you are in the 40% who are not subscribed, please go down and click subscribe now. It's a free way to show me that you appreciate the videos and help me keep making more videos like this for you. But without further ado, let's get into the main event of the evening. And as you know, your boy Lucrative always tries to stay leveling up the content game so you can enjoy this show more and more each week. And we have some new graphics that I would love to showcase for you in this episode. So let me know in the comments down below what you think about the new graphics and honestly any other improvements that you would like to see on the show. But let's get into the fight. In the main event, we have the UFC BMF title on the line in a rematch between two definite BMFs of the sport. We have Max Holloway taking on Charles Oliveira for the second time in their careers. Max Holloway is coming into this fight with a record of 27 wins and 8 losses. Charles Oliveira, on the other hand, 36 wins and 11 losses. Currently, they have Max Holloway as the minus 190 favorite with the underdog price tag on Charles Oliveira sitting at plus 165 odds. So, is Max Holloway going to defend his BMF title? He defended it well last fight against Dustin Poirier. He finally got his revenge on him, but now he has to take on Charles Oliveira, and Charles Oliveira is the one gunning for revenge. As I said when I introduced these fighters, this is actually a rematch, guys. A lot of people won't know that. It was so long ago now. It was even in a different weight class, that first fight. They first fought in August 2015, more than 10 years ago, in the featherweight weight class, 145 pounds. Now, finally, 11 years later, these guys meet again at lightweight, 155 pounds, and this time for a title. It's not an official title, but it is a UFC BMF title. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the BMF title or not. I know a lot of people call it cringy. I personally don't really care about it. I don't have thoughts either way. I guess it's a fun thing to do, but I would be just as excited for this fight if it wasn't for a BMF title. Like, the BMF title does nothing for me. So as in every rematch, we need to go back and look at the first fight and see how it went. Most important thing to understand, boys, is that no two fights are the same, but the first fight can give us some clues as to how the second fight will go. But the annoying thing with this one is I can't tell you too much about the first fight because it only lasted 1 minute and 39 seconds. It was stopped via a neck/shoulder injury on the Charles Oliveira side. So Max Holloway won via TKO, via injury. And the fight played out fairly similar to how these guys fight now, honestly. Like, Charles Oliveira was straight heading towards Max Holloway. running after him, trying to get into that clinch scenario because he knew, especially at that time, that he has a massive grappling advantage over everyone, but also his striking wasn't up to par. Max Holloway, on the other hand, was the opposite. He was a very good striker at that time, but he wasn't as good at the grappling in jiu-jitsu. There was a much bigger gap in the jiu-jitsu than there is now between them, but there was also a much bigger gap in the striking, right? And we saw that play out. Like Charles Oliveira doesn't really know what to do. He's getting hit by shots. Max Holloway is kind of teeing off on him in the first minute of the fight, just staying at range. Charles Oliveira's eating all the shots, high guard as he always does, walking forward, tried to get the clinch scenarios. Max is pushing him off, landing decent shots on him, outboxing him, out kickboxing him. And then they get into a little scramble. Max Holloway ends up on top, stands off him. Obviously, he doesn't want to engage in the grappling. And then as soon as Charles Oliveira gets to his feet, his neck and shoulder, something happens, right? Something happens, and all you see is him put his hand over his neck and shoulder, put his hand up to Max to basically say, stop, I don't want to fight anymore, drop down to his ass, and the ref calls it off. It's a very strange stoppage. One of the strangest fights, one of the strangest ending to a fight you will ever see in MMA. And that's how the fight ended, right? And I found out that after this fight, Charles Oliveira was told by some doctors that he may be paralyzed. And that was stemming from the injury he had on his neck and shoulder. And actually, when he was a child, he was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I believe it was. And he was also told as a kid that he may never walk again. So being told again, 15, 20 years later, that he may be paralyzed after the fight with Max Holloway, it affected him very, very deeply. Max has actually come out after this and said, I believe it was post-fight press conference or something like that, said that he alluded to he doesn't really believe Charles. He said that the doctors looked at Charles and they said nothing was wrong with him. So I don't really know what's gone on there. But at least from Charles's own camp and his words, they said that he may be paralyzed after that fight.
There's also Oliveira. I heard he was yapping, saying that our first fight was injuries. You know what I mean? He had an injury when we fought. Last time I checked, when they did a follow-up and they wanted to find out what his injury was, there's no injury report on it. They said he was fine, so I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I don't think he was lying about the injury at all. I mean, it would be such a strange way to stop a fight. Nothing was really happening. Yes, Charles was losing, but it was only a minute in. Charles can finish the fight at any moment. So I actually tend to believe Charles's injury there. So really, the only real takeaway I have from that fight is more on the narrative side, where Charles is going to fully want his revenge, definitely want his revenge because of what Max came out and said about the injury not necessarily being for real. And I know that Charles is going to be fully motivated for this fight. I also know that Max Holloway is going to be motivated for this fight because Max Holloway wants to dispel the rumors that he only won because of an injury, and it seems like he doesn't even believe the injury himself. So both fighters are going to be fully motivated for this fight. This is a legend versus legend fight. And let's go into the stylistic breakdowns. Boys, since their first fight, Charles Oliveira has got so much better on the feet. It is unbelievable. He has knocked out the likes of Michael Chandler, Jared Gordon, Beneil Dariush. Now, these guys may not be the best strikers with the best chin of all time, but they are fighters that Charles probably would not have knocked out when he first fought Max Holloway the first time. He's also competed heavily on the feet with fighters like Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje, real good strikers for the division. Not only competed with them, but honestly beat them on the feet, especially Justin Gaethje. Hurt Justin Gaethje multiple times, did drop him as well, and submitted both of those guys. So he's way better on the feet. His Muay Thai striking has come leaps and bounds. He still has the same similar style of hands up, rushing in very aggressively, but instead of just forcing the clinch exchanges, now he has knees, real sharp weapons with knees and elbows and punches and kicks, teeps to the stomach. I mean, he's got everything in his arsenal now. He's a very good Muay Thai striker. Now, something that I still don't like about Charles is that he can be hurt very often, and he's so aggressive that he's just so hittable. I don't think he has the best chin of all time. I think it's pretty good, but I don't think it's the best chin of all time. I've seen him dropped, wobbled, hurt, rocked in, you're talking about almost every fight in the last 10 years. It literally is almost every fight. The guy's always getting hurt, rocked, wobbled. I see no reason why that should change in this fight, but he now blends his striking and grappling game very well. I also want to tell you something else about Charles Oliveira and the trajectory of his career and how it's gone. So as we mentioned, he lost to Max Holloway in 2015, right? Now, the subsequent 5 fights after that Max Holloway loss, he lost 3 of them, right? So if you include the Max Holloway loss, in that period of Charles Oliveira's career, 6 fights, 4 losses. The last loss was against Paul Felder. And after that fight, boys, Charles Oliveira never lost again until after winning the title. He went on one of the best runs in lightweight history, completely reinvented himself in the striking, and emerged as a worldwide MMA star. The career trajectory that happened after that very poor run of a Max Holloway loss, Paul Felder loss, Anthony Pettis loss, was immense. He went on a rocket ship straight to the top. He then won 11 fights in a row. After that, 10 finishes and captured the lightweight title. Then eventually he lost his title to Islam Makhachev, which means nothing. And now if we fast forward to 2026 and his rematch against Max Holloway, since that run that he first had after the Paul Felder loss, right? He's only lost 3 times. That's 17 fights and 3 losses. So picture this, boys. 17 fights, 3 losses, and the 3 losses are against Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria, and Arman Tsarukyan. I mean, of course he was going to lose those fights. Everybody would lose those fights. Max Holloway would lose those fights. You know, so there's no knock on him. I mean, this guy is still competing at the highest level of the sport. In his very last fight, choked out Mateus Gamrot, made the fight look easy in a fight that was lined about a pick'em. I think Charles Oliveira is still functioning at the top of his game. I don't think he's in his prime anymore, but he is still functioning at the top of the game, not his game. Now, let's move to Max Holloway. Boys, Max Holloway has done something similar to Charles Oliveira in that when he moved up weight classes, he looked very different, right? Charles Oliveira used to fight at featherweight. You know, when he moved up to lightweight, yeah, he lost a couple of fights, but then he went on a crazy run. Lightweight was his weight, right? I'm not saying that lightweight is Max Holloway's weight. I do think it is now. I have liked Max Holloway at lightweight since he moved up there. I really, really have. I think he's improved a lot. Now, I don't think he's in his prime either. So there are negatives on him. For example, his durability seems to be dropping heavily. And I don't think it's because the higher weight class he gets hit harder. I think he's just been in so many fights, so many wars, took so many punches, eventually got knocked out by Ilia Topuria, and now he's getting hurt more, you know, than he's been hurt ever before. Dustin Poirier hurt him very badly in round 2. Boys, by the way, if you want to see a great round 2, go and watch Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway round 2. Max Holloway drops Dustin Poirier with a great shot, a left hook, right straight combo. And then later in that same round, he gets dropped by Dustin Poirier. Very good round there. But you can see his chin is definitely deteriorating, right? So that's a negative for him moving up to lightweight and just a negative on him in his career right now. But I'm also going to tell you about some positives. Max Holloway, about 3 years ago, completely changed his style. I don't think people actually know this because he still throws a lot of volume. He's still moving the same when he throws strikes to some degree. He's still striking, fully striking. So because maybe the difference in style isn't as pronounced to like the casual viewer, they don't realize. But boys, Max Holloway fights completely different than he ever did in his entire career. Max Holloway now fights on the outside, a very technical striker, bouncing on the outside. He's not crazy pressure moving forward like he used to all the time. He also throws way more kicks than he's ever done in his career. He judges range better, and he is way more defensively responsible than he once was. I think he knows that he's getting older. I think he knows his durability is waning, and he is such a good fighter and so high IQ that he was able to adapt his style later on in his career. Fighters like Andrei Arlovsky did that. There are other fighters who have done that as well, and it's honestly just a joy to watch. I told you that I liked Max moving up to lightweight, and there's been some positives based on that. One of the positives is his punch power. His punch power seems to have increased massively, and his damaging strike power in general, I think is much better at lightweight than it was at featherweight, in my opinion. He just has more power, man. He has more pop to his shots. And I think we see that in the Justin Gaethje lightweight fight, and we see that in the Dustin Poirier trilogy lightweight fight as well. Now, you could say, Justin Gaethje's chin and Dustin Poirier's chin is, you know, a little bit lackluster. Now they're getting older. Yeah, maybe. I tend to believe that Max Holloway has more power. You can just see it, man. Sitting down on his shots, you can just see the power in his hands. I don't think it's just a durability thing. Like, he's sitting down on his shots more. He just seems to have more oomph. He's way bigger. I mean, he's massive at lightweight. Compare him at featherweight to lightweight. He's way skinnier. Like, of course he's going to have more power, right? I don't think it's the durability of the fighters who he's fighting. I think it's that he has more power. And I'll tell you something now, I can see him hurting, wobbling, rocking, and knocking out Charles Oliveira in this fight. I can definitely see that. I think he actually will hurt Charles Oliveira. Charles's path to victory is going to be the same as every other fight. He's going to need to swarm Max Holloway. He's going to need to land his big shots in close. He's going to need to test that fading durability, which I do believe he has, of Max Holloway, and jump on a submission. I don't think he's going to get a knockout here. Yes, he can rock him, he can hurt him. That has happened to Max. I don't think he's going to be able to follow it up and have the real clinical striking skill set to put Max out. That is extremely unlikely. But what is way more likely is that Charles Oliveira hurts Max Holloway and then jumps on a guillotine straight away, jumps on a back take and chokes him out. That is, in my opinion, Charles' path to victory. In my opinion, Charles has to win the fight via submission to win this fight. I don't see a KO and I don't see a decision. The reason I don't see a KO, I just told you. I don't think he has the clinical prowess or power enough to really do it. I think you need to hit Max many times to knock him out. I don't think it's going to be a one-shot knockout. I mean, go watch the Topuria fight. He had to hit him with a lot of shots to knock him out there. The reason I don't think Charles will win a decision is because he isn't that type of fighter. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't really win minutes. Oftentimes he's getting tagged, he's getting hurt, but he creates these magical moments in the octagon where he gets a finish. Right, most of the time. Yes, of course, he can win decision by some fights, but I don't think he's beating Max Holloway via decision. I mean, Max Holloway is the volume king. He's the pace king. He's the way better striker, way better distance control. I don't really see Charles Oliveira grappling him for 5 rounds, which he probably needs to do to win a decision, because he ain't going to be out striking him on the feet for 25 minutes. I'll tell you that now. He can have a moment. He can have 3 or 4 moments. He can't outstrike him and win a decision in 25 minutes, in my opinion. He has to get grappling to win a decision. And I don't think his wrestling is good enough or explosive enough to get consistent grappling control on Max. Yes, he could take him down once and sub him potentially. I don't think he can take him down 3 out of 5 rounds and control him in 3 out of 5 rounds to win on the judges' scorecards without getting finished. I don't think so. So I think he needs to sub him, right? On the Max Holloway side, I think Max Holloway can easily win a decision. But I think more than likely, if he does win, it is via KO, because Charles Oliveira is a kill or be killed fighter. You know, about 3 years ago, I had a massive method to Charles Oliveira fights, which was just betting the under 2.5 rounds. I mean, against Justin Gaethje, we got at like minus 160 or something insane like that. Currently, the books have the fight doesn't go to decision as minus 200, and I think that's a great bet. I do believe that that line will move, and even by the time this video gets edited, processed, and uploaded, the line may have already moved. I can't do anything about that. I tried to record these as early as possible for you, so I'm to market early, so you guys get early predictions, because I know you guys love early predictions. But that also means that the lines do move a lot more volatilely or fast. They move a lot more fast when you're this far out from the fight, you know, so maybe it's not going to stay at minus 200, but I'm actually outright giving that as a bet now, saying that is a good bet for you to place if you can. And then my ultimate prediction for this fight is going to be Max Holloway, boys. I just feel like he's the way better striker, man. And Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, doesn't have the wrestling to get him down. And he needs to hurt him and jump on a guillotine. And even if he hurts, or, you know, a back take or whatever, and even if he hurts him, it doesn't mean he's instantly going to sub him. You know what I mean? Like, it seems slim margins for me. Like, Max Holloway to win this fight seems clean. Like, yes, he's just going to outbox him. He's going to hurt him way more. He's a way better striker. He's going to knock him down. He's going to hurt him. After 2 or 3 rounds, Charles Oliveira won't be able to get the fight down, and he's basically not going to quit, but he's just going to be hurt too many times, and the referee's going to wave it off. That's like a clear path to victory for me to see. I can see the path to victory for Charles, but it's so much more unlikely. I mean, hurting Max Holloway is way more unlikely than Holloway hurting Oliveira, because Oliveira gets hurt way more than Max anyway, and he's a worse striker, right? But it's one thing to hurt Max, but it's another thing to capitalize on that and then finish him. I mean, if you watch the second round, as I spoke of Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway, Dustin hurt Max and then actually jumped on the guillotine. So, I mean, the path's there. It can happen. I just think it's more unlikely. You know what I mean? Like, more unlikely than Max winning the fight. So I got Max Holloway in this fight. I got Max Holloway fairly confidently as well. Next up in the co-main event, we have 2 guys who have recently succumbed to losses, but are still gunning for that middleweight title. We have Caio Borralho taking on Reinier de Ridder. Caio Borralho coming into this fight, very shiny record, 17 wins with only 2 losses. Reinier de Ridder, shiny record in his own right, 21 wins with only 3 losses. Currently they have Caio Borralho as the pretty large minus 260 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Reinier de Ridder coming back at plus 220 odds. So this is a very interesting one for me, boys. I mean, both fighters were gunning for a title shot before their last fights, and both fighters took some pretty bad losses. You know, Caio Borralho got absolutely clean sweeped by Nassourdine Imavov. You know, you could score that fight 50-45 for Nassourdine Imavov there. And And in the fight between Reinier Derrida and Brendan Allen, in Derrida's last fight, he quit. He quit in between rounds 4 and round 5. And they were both favorites going into their fights. And yeah, they both lost clearly. It wasn't a close competitive fight. I'd say the Derrida fight was probably closer because Derrida absolutely dominated Allen, almost en route to a 10-8 in round 1. He just doesn't really go for damage. He's a jiu-jitsu player first and first. So, it's always harder for jiu-jitsu guys to get 10-8s because there's no damage involved for the most part. If you're fishing for submissions, it's only duration and control. So yeah, if he did a bit more damage, it would have been a 10-8, so full domination there. And then he kind of just gassed out. And even, honestly, round 2 and round 3, round 2 was kind of close as well, but he fully gassed out after 7.5 minutes and ended up losing that fight, quitting in between the stall. So to some degree, it's a bigger loss than Caio Borralho because at least Caio made it 25 minutes, but Caio had no moments, whereas at least Derrida did. So basically, boys, both of them coming off very, very bad, disappointing performances. And I think both of them are going to want to get on track here. And I think both of them will still believe that they have the skills to become the middleweight champion in the future. Let's touch on Reinier Derrida first, because when this guy first came into the UFC, we didn't really know what to make of him. He ended up knocking down GM3 in the first round in his debut and then kind of looking like he might go on to lose the fight before eventually getting a submission in round 3. And then obviously he had that big fight against Robert Whittaker where he pushed Robert Whittaker to the brink and he ended up winning via decision, which really dispelled a lot of myths about him, which was he was a bit of a gasser, he gets tired, and then everyone started comparing him to DDP, and boy, I would definitely still compare him to DDP. Them two guys are so similar in so many different ways. I'm not going to go into it, but he was kind of shot to semi-superstardom in the MMA community, like Derrida's this new guy, right? He takes on Brendan Allen as a minus 200 favorite, and he kind of embarrasses himself, as I say, quits between round 4 and round 5. Now, I think that was a terrible look, guys. I'm going to come out right and say it right now. I think quitting in between rounds when, by the way, you have 1 round left, it's very bad. If you took so much punishment and you're going into round 3 and you've still got 3 rounds left of a 5-round fight, you got round 3, round 4, and round 5, it makes more sense to quit. But to have 5 minutes left and you can't go out there and fight, I think that's a bad look, guys. And there's going to be a few people in the comments chirping saying, oh, James, you're not a professional MMA fighter, like you don't know how it is. At the end of the day, boys, I'm not a professional MMA fighter. Reinier Derrida is. So he is the one who shouldn't be quitting. If anything, I should be quitting if I'm in there, right? But Derrida is a professional MMA fighter. So we can judge him on his professional MMA fighting. And I think that was a very bad look. I don't think Caio Borralho would not go out for the 5th round. I don't think Brendan Allen would not go out for the 5th round. Maybe he had a very bad off night, or maybe somewhere deep inside, when the going gets tough, he may not want to push through. I have lots of respect for Reinier Derrida. I have to call it as I see it here. I watched him quit mid-fight. I have to speak about it, right? I don't think that's a good look, boys. And I think that's a big red flag on him in 5-round fights specifically. But I do think that is a big red flag on him. Now, very luckily, this is a 3-round fight. I think it changes the fight massively. I think you dramatically favor Caio in a 5-round fight. And I think in a 3-round fight, it definitely gives Reinier Derrida more chances. As I said, he did dominate round 1 against Brendan Allen and gassed out there. Like if that was a 3-round fight, it would have been close because round 2 was a very close round and round 1 he dominated. You're talking split decision territory there. Although I did score round 2 for Brendan Allen, it was close, and he did have some control time and Reinier Derrida had moments. So you're talking about a split decision. Whereas in a 5-round fight, he got knocked out, right? It was a TKO loss. It was a TKO stoppage from exhaustion, or it was a quit, whatever you want to call it. And I did some digging on the Reinier Derrida side, boys, and I found out the reasons why he quit in that fight, or at least the reasons that he said. So Reinier Derrida had an interview with Submission Radio, and in that interview, he said he has been dealing with crazy health issues since the Allen fight, getting tired even walking upstairs. He says he's done blood work, UFC PI helped him, UFC helped him in general, and now he is feeling much more like himself. So take a listen to what he said himself.
What have you been doing trying to figure out what went wrong, obviously, against Brendan Allen?
Since the fight, I've basically felt like shit for 2 months. Still tired, walking up the stairs, wasn't able to finish the training session, wasn't able to recover. If I would train, I would feel like shit for days after. It's been rough the last couple of months, but it's very cool to find out what was wrong with me. 2 weeks after the fight, the Regenerate guys helped me to get a very complete blood panel. So testosterone, all the lipids and everything. And basically, I don't want to go into too much detail, but basically everything was trash. I just worked myself into the gutter, trained way too hard, did way too many weight cuts, and I just fucked my body up all the way.
So there it is, boys. Like, do we give him a pass? Do we give him a pass for quitting in that fight? Do we give him a pass for retiring in between the 4th and 5th rounds because he had all these health issues? Or do we say that, yeah, this could be true. I'm sure this is true, but you still do get tired in fights. We've seen it before. You have pushed through better in the past, but we still can't trust you 100% with the cardio. I would go with the latter. I still do believe that his cardio is a question. I think he pushes through, but at the end of the day, if you push through, it means that like you're still gassed out, you're still tired. And I don't think someone like Caio Borralho is really going to get tired. Like, he's got very good cardio. You know, Caio Borralho has very good cardio. And he's I would say that the big difference between Caio Borralho and Reinier de Ridder is that de Ridder's style takes a lot more gas, because de Ridder is big movements, big energy, big knees up the middle, using a lot of strength to hold you in the clinch, big hip tosses. You know, he's not really flicking you off balance with a little Muay Thai sweep or something. He's putting a lot of his body into, I know hip tosses are not always, you don't always expend so much energy with hip tosses, but sometimes you do if you don't hit them perfectly, right? And just in general, the way he wrestles, I should say, not grapple, it requires a lot of energy. And he's a massive guy anyway, you know, whereas Caio Borralho, he manages his middleweight body very well. He's very low volume at times. He's 1-2, teep up the middle, very low energy, very energy efficient style, honestly, with Caio Borralho. Now, we speak about Caio Borralho. I think that Caio is a bad stylistic matchup for Reinier de Ridder, honestly, because he can hang with him in the grappling. You know, I don't think that Reinier de Ridder is going to submit him. And de Ridder's chance to win basically every fight is a submission. You know, if de Ridder doesn't submit you, he's probably not going to look value unless he's like a massive underdog. And he's a pretty big underdog here, but you get what I'm trying to say. So I think Caio Borralho, the reason I think he's a bad stylistic matchup, like I said, he can hang on the ground with him. He's a much better striker as well. He's got better cardio, in my opinion. And that's the main reasons why I favor Caio Borralho in this matchup. You know, I think that his striking is on a much higher level. You know, I think he can hurt de Ridder with his 1-2. I think he has a very sharp 1-2 that will pierce through de Ridder's guard. You know, I don't think de Ridder likes those straight shots. I think that he likes to be all the way out, or when you come close, throwing those knees and getting you in the clinch. I think when he's in that medium boxing range, those 1-2s pierce the guard pretty easily, you know, those sharp shots. And we saw that in the Allen fight at times. He was landing some big shots on him. 95% of that fight did play out in the grappling. I also think Caio can get on top here and do some domination work, especially when de Ridder gets tired after 7.5 minutes, or at least maybe he won't get tired after 7.5 minutes, but it's going to be easier for Caio to get his grappling going in round 2 and round 3. We saw in round 4, Brendan Allen just march forward and dominate de Ridder with a big takedown, you know, because de Ridder was so tired. So, you know, I see the fight playing out where early de Ridder is maybe a little bit smart because he doesn't want to gas out, but he's his usual aggressive self eventually after a minute or two, you know, after he takes a while to get a read on Caio Borralho's outside striking game. And yeah, de Ridder tries to close distance, tries to clinch up. I think Borralho knows that he's going to clinch up here because even in some of his Instagram videos, we see Caio Borralho is clinching, preparing for de Ridder, and he even mentions in the caption, like, are we going to the ground? I'm excited for this one. So he knows that de Ridder is going to try and close the distance, get in the clinch. He's very good at clinching. I will say that I have seen Caio Borralho held in the clinch in a lot of fights, you know, so that's not a great look. Even back in the day, I mean, it's always been a little bit of a struggle of his. You see the Aaron Jeffries fight on Dana White's Contender Series, you know, got held in the clinch there for a good portion of it. So that may be a aspect or a part of the fight where de Ridder could kind of exploit, but I don't really see him just holding him up for like 15 minutes. I do think Caio Borralho will get space, and the damage he can do in space will probably offset 2 or 3 minutes of clinching, honestly, because he is just a much better striker, and de Ridder is so open on the feet. If we look at Brendan Allen getting dominated by de Ridder, but then also reversing him, even end of round 1, he reversed him. And then if we go back and look at Caio Borralho versus Brendan Allen, yes, they did fight. It was in a grappling contest on Karate Combat. We see Borralho completely dominating Brendan Allen physically on the mat. You know, so while they didn't cut as much weight and Caio Borralho come in a lot heavier for that, I still think that watching that, it's not going to be as easy for de Ridder to manhandle Borralho like he did against Allen, because I've seen Borralho manhandle Allen the same way. You know, Borralho dominated that grappling contest against Brendan Allen, and I truly believe that he's going to be able to reverse the Ritter at times, especially in round 2 and round 3, and honestly have his own grappling success. I do think that Reinier the Ritter could hold him down for a round, because the Ritter is extremely patient with his grappling. He's a very high-level grappler. He doesn't rush anything. I don't think he's just going to get reversed as soon as he takes Borralho down, but I do think Borralho can get some reversals here, and I do think that overall, over 15 minutes, I think he can actually win the grappling, if not leave it 50-50. But then in the striking, it's 90-10, you know, day and night. And the cardio, I have to favor Caio as well. So yeah, multiple reasons to favor Caio. I'm picking Caio to win the fight. I don't know whether he's going to get a knockout or decision. I mean, this guy goes to decision in basically every single fight, so it's tough to call for a knockout, but I feel like he could get a knockout here. I think he can hurt Reinier the Ritter. And I've seen Reinier the Ritter quit 2 times in the octagon now, you know, or at least in the MMA cage. I've seen him quit against Anthony Malarkin, upper weight class, but I have seen it. And I've seen him quit now against Brendan Allen, you know, and I've never seen Caio quit. So I'm going to go with Caio to get a finish in this fight. And I'm going to go with like a body shot, 1-2 down the middle. I think Reinier the Ritter gets put on his back and maybe he covers up while Caio Borralho starts to pound away. Now, I'm not super confident in that, but I am decently confident in Caio ultimately winning the fight. Next up on the card, we have a classic up-and-comer versus veteran matchup as Rob Font takes on Raul Rosas Jr. Rob Font, veteran record of 22 wins and 9 losses. Raul Rosas Jr., up-and-coming record of 11 wins and 1 loss. Raul Rosas Jr., the pretty big favorite, at minus 190 odds with the underdog price tag on Rob Font sitting at plus 165. This is a very weird fight, boys, because Rob Font is a guy who will spoil the party if you are not on your P's and Q's. We remember that Kyler Phillips fight not too long ago when Phillips was meant to go out there and dominate him. You know, we remember that Gene Matsumoto fight, in a fight that I actually thought he lost, but, you know, he still ended up winning. And Gene Matsumoto, a very high-level fighter, we see him arguably beat Farid Basharat, who, again, very high-level fighter. So Rob Font is still competing at the top of the division, you know, but Rob Font has the same issue in almost every loss, man. 1, he gets hurt on the feet, right? His chin gets cracked always. He never gets knocked out, but he gets wobbled. But 2, this guy can be grappled to hell. I mean, this guy can be taken down and controlled on the mat, and that is something that has plagued Rob Font for his entire career. Now, his get-ups are pretty good, depending on how good you are on top, to be honest. But his get-ups are pretty good, and he does a lot of damage on the feet, but more than damage, does volume, pace, and pressure on the feet, which offsets a lot of the takedowns. That's why this guy is in, you know, some split decisions, or this guy is getting controlled, but he still has an argument to win the fight, you know, or this guy loses a round from control time easily, like the Phillips fight, but then dominates the second and third round because he doesn't get taken down. So Rob Font is now coming up against somebody who is going to grapple him. You know, Rob Font's coming up against Raul Rosas Jr., who is an out-and-out grappler. I mean, this guy is not a striker. This guy is not even an MMA. I mean, this guy's a pure grappler. Now, of course, he's an MMA fighter, but you get what I'm trying to say. He goes in there and he doesn't really want to play MMA. Like, he doesn't want to strike for a bit, do some wrestling, then do some grappling. He just basically wants to grapple, which is fine. Khabib made a whole career of it, one of the best fighters ever to live, right? But that's what he likes to do. I think that it's a good style, but it's also a bad style because, and I mean in this matchup, because yes, you're probably going to have some grappling success, but are you going to be able to hold Rob Font down? That's the big question there, boys. I mean, I'm not under no illusions to think that Rob Font is going to go out there and just, you know, not get taken down. He's going to get taken down in this fight. Unless Raul Rosas Jr. loses his mind and starts to strike with him, which he's not going to do. He's going to get taken down. He's going to get takedowns on Rob Font. Rob Font gets taken down by everybody, and Raul Rosas Jr. takes down everybody. The real question is, how much control time is Raul going to have? You go back and look at the Corey Sandhagen versus Rob Font fight. Corey Sandhagen has 19 minutes, 19 and a half minutes of control time in a fight that was scheduled for the 25-minute distance. 19 minutes of control time in 25 minutes. I mean, it's insane from a striker, you know, from an MMA fighter in Corey Sandhagen, right? You go back and look at the Davison Figueiredo fight. He gives up 4 minutes of control time. You go back and look at the Kyler Phillips fight. Completely dominated with control time throughout the entire round 1. I mean, Raul's going to get some control time here. I just don't know how much, because I do think that Rob Font can offset the control time in the same round if he gets back up to his feet. That's why I'm having a real hard time discerning here. Is he going to get back up to his feet? And how often is he going to do it? On the other side, when we're talking about Raul, I don't love what I've seen from him. I think he's a very good fighter. He's only 21 years old. He's improving fight to fight for sure. He only lost once against Christian Rodrigues in a very close fight where the only reason he lost is because he completely gassed out. I feel like he fights at a pace now where he doesn't gas out as much as he did in that fight, but I still see him get reversed in every single round of his last fight against Vince Morales. I still see him getting 2 deep submission attempts in round 3. I still see him tire a bit in round 3. I still see him get reversed and end up on bottom towards the end of round 1. Like, I'm not loving what I'm seeing from him. You know what I mean? Like, his opponents are always in the fight to some degree, really, unless he's just smoking them like he did against a couple of fighters. I mean, even the Ricky Turcios fight before he submitted him, Ricky was fully in that fight. I mean, Ricky could have almost submitted him. Something to mention is that Raul Rosas Jr. and Rob Font was already scheduled to fight. Raul pulled out from that fight. During my digging, I found out that Raul Rosas Jr. has publicly given 2 completely different reasons for pulling out of that fight. So I don't really know what the real reason was. The first reason he said was he had a rib injury and he had to pull out of the fight. The next reason he said, on a completely different interview, a different time period, he said that he had to pull out because his brother was fighting on the same day and he wanted to help him with the preparation. So I don't know what's going on with that. I've also seen some stuff on social media. The guy saying he wants to retire at 25 and that's 4 years away. Like, it's a little bit weird on the Raul side to that degree. So yeah, boys, I mean, I want to pick Rob Font here. I really want to pick Rob Font because he's the better striker. He's going to do more damage on the feet. Way better striker. He's going to do way more volume on the feet. He's going to be winning the minutes and the moments on the feet. Now, Raul is explosive. He is athletic. He is young. He could hurt Rob Font. I want to put that out there because I did say minutes and moments, but because I do think Rob Font would win the moments. He hits hard himself, but I do want to put that out there that Rob Font gets hurt in a lot of fights, basically by everybody. Almost every single fight he's ever had in the last 5 years, he's got hurt, which is kind of annoying, even in fights that he's winning. So maybe Raul could hurt him, but like, this is the worst striker he's fought in 5 years. Like, I mean, by far, so I'm kind of predicting him to not get hurt. And if anything, him to hurt Rosas on the feet. I think he's going to be winning the minutes on the feet, the moments. I just don't know if he's going to be able to get back up to his feet enough times to win the fight. I want to do a bit more tape study on this one. And what I'm going to specifically look for now is how good is Rob Font getting back to his feet? Because as I say, there's some anomalies where he looks like he doesn't know what jiu-jitsu is against Corey Sandhagen. But there are some fights where he's defending the takedowns. He is getting back up to his feet and he's competing really well, like the Gene Matsumoto fight. And that was a very recent fight as well. So, sometimes it seems what type of fighter will Font show up as this weekend? He's had some performances which look a bit strange. I will say, obviously, Corey's a very good grappler in general, but Raul Rosas Jr. is arguably that same level, maybe even better at the back take game and stuff like that. So there's a lot to think about in this fight, boys. But I'm going to do more tape study. I'm going to see how good Rob Font is to get back up to his feet. I want to specifically see how Rob Font's anti-grappling blends with Raul Rosas Jr.'s grappling, because at the moment I've looked at it as an overall perspective and tape study that way. Sometimes I like to go back and do more tape study. And as always, I will give my final predictions out to everybody in my Elite Zone, my final bets out as well on the Elite Zone. But currently, right now, as it stands, boys, I'm going to pick Rob Font as the underdog here. I feel like the line should be closer. I don't think Raul should be minus 190 in a fight that he's taken a massive step up in competition. He's never won at this level before. He's never fought at this level, let alone won at this level. He has lost at a lower level, and he is getting reversed in every single round against someone like Vince Morales, So I have to pick Rob Font here, almost even on principle. But I do understand stylistically, it's not an easy one for him, So that's it, boys. I'm picking Rob Font here. Next up, we have 2 veterans of the sport. Drew Dober is taking on Michael Johnson. Drew Dober coming into this fight with a record of 28 wins, 15 losses. Michael Johnson, on the other hand, semi-similar record, 24 wins, but 19 losses. That makes him the most losing fighter on the entire fight card. Honestly, I'm surprised that these guys have never fought before, but we're going to see it this weekend, and the bookies have the fight line pretty closely. Michael Johnson is a minus 145 favorite with the underdog price tag on Drew Dober coming back at plus 125 odds.
What's up, lads? I'm tapping in super late because I just got a message from my editor saying that I didn't break down the Michael Johnson and Drew Dober fight, so I'm very sorry. Just coming back from training now, and I'm going to break the fight down for you super quickly, boys. So, in a nutshell, I'm picking Michael Johnson to win the fight. The reason I'm picking him to win the fight is because he's faster than Drew Dober and hits probably just as hard. and he's going to land on the target first. Drew Dober is extremely hittable. He always has been. But nowadays, recently, it seems like his durability is dropping faster and faster. And if his durability is going, he's going to get cracked by Michael Johnson. That's a guarantee. So if his durability isn't there, then he's probably going to get knocked out. So that's really the nuts and bolts of it. At the end of the day, Drew can easily knock out Michael Johnson here. I'm not going to go in depth on this breakdown because I'm in my car. But I am ultimately picking Michael Johnson to win the fight. Hopefully they give us a nice under. A fight doesn't go an under 2.5, something like that, because I think someone's getting knocked out. Fight ends via KO. Could be a good prop bet. But that's basically it, boys. I am picking Michael Johnson via knockout here, and I think violence is probably the way to go. Someone's getting finished.
Boys, remember what I always say, picks are not bets, right? So my predictions and analysis are one thing, but the way I actually bet is a completely different thing. There's only two things you need to do to be good at MMA betting and make a long-term income from it. The first thing is understanding MMA handicapping, how to predict the fight, break down the fight, etc. But that is worthless on its own. The second thing is understanding sports betting, understanding bankroll strategy, understanding variance, understanding how to find value in the odds and implied probability and the mathematics behind sports betting. Once you master those two things and marry them together, that is when you can make an income from it. Predictions are good, they're fun, they give you some understanding, but alone, they are nothing if your goal is to make an income from betting on MMA. I have a VIP community where I give out not only my predictions, but my bets for every single fight that I place a bet on the UFC fight card. Not only do I do that, but I tell you exactly how much to stake on each bet. Not only that, but I'm tracked on a third-party website, betmma.tips, so I cannot fake my record, like most of the other scam decappers and frauds out there. My track numbers are over 500 units profit since I started this in late 2019. Men lie, women lie, but numbers do not. And these are third-party tracked numbers. If you want to join a handicapper who is real, has real numbers tracked out there and get the exact bets that I place every single week that you can copy and paste, then the link is in the bio. It is also sublaunch.com/lucrative MMA, and you can join the VIP group. Now, this is a banger of a matchup, boys. Another rematch on the card. Gregory Rodrigues takes on his Brazilian counterpart, Bruno Ferreira, for the second time in their careers. Gregory Rodrigues coming into this fight with a record of 18 wins, 6 losses. Bruno Ferreira, on the other hand, 15 wins, only 2 losses. Gregory Rodrigues is sitting as a minus 190 favorite, so not as big of a favorite as he was in their first fight, but still a decent sized favorite. The underdog price tag on Bruno Ferreira is currently sitting at plus 165 odds. So as I mentioned before, boys, this one is a rematch. In the first fight, Bruno Ferreira came in making his UFC debut as a plus 250 underdog, and he knocked out Gregory Rodrigues in round 1 to everyone's shock. But not to my shock, and not to the Elite Zone shock, because we bet on Bruno Ferreira in that fight. We also bet on Bruno Ferreira to win via KO in round 1. So it was a fantastic night for us in general, because we had a great night, but it was also a fantastic bet, you know, and one of my favorite ones, because obviously it's a massive underdog. It's a great read, because we bet KO round 1 at plus 1,000, plus 800 as well. So that was a good one. Is the fight going to go the same way? That's the magic question with these rematches, right? Because at the end of the day, what Bruno Ferreira capitalized on, he can still capitalize on that now. Like, not much has changed. Gregory Rodrigues has always been fairly hittable, and he's always had a bit of a dodgy chin. I mean, this guy got knocked out in Dana White's Contender Series by a fighter maybe 3 or 4, 5 levels below him in MMA, in Jordan Williams. And to be honest, Bruno Ferreira is probably 1 or 2 levels below him, and he knocked him out as well. So Gregory Rodrigues is always in with a chance of getting knocked out no matter who he fights, and he's proven that time and time again in his UFC and MMA career. And so I do think Bruno can capitalize on that again. In the first fight, Gregory almost only boxed, you know. And let's speak about that first fight, boys. How did that first fight go? Because we got 5 minutes of data already, you know. And in that first fight, Gregory was definitely winning the fight. He was winning the minutes, but Bruno Ferreira was hanging in there. He was coming inches away on some of his shots, and he eventually found the knockout. And the knockout was a very beautiful knockout. You know, Gregory was able to back him against the fence like he does to everybody, using his very powerful, strong boxing game, and he was able to land a couple of shots on Bruno Ferreira. Bruno Ferreira threw a left hook, pulled the left hook back because he saw that Gregory was out of range, and then threw the left hook again. But before he threw the second left hook, he almost faked a right hook. And this is what he does a lot. You'll see Bruno Ferreira, he reaches in, right? So he's gone to throw the left hook. He's kind of seen that Gregory is out of range. So he says, okay, I need to close distance the next time I throw throw the left hook. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw the right hook over the top to distract Gregory and then come through with the left hook, the leaping left hook. And that's the one that eventually landed. I can't do too much. I got this here, but you get what I'm trying to say. I'm getting animated. But basically, it was a smart shot from Brunno Ferreira because he knew he was out of range because he lined him up with the left on the first attempt. And he was like, okay, let me close distance. And Gregory Rodrigues did not see that coming. And I could most certainly see Brunno Ferreira doing that again. He does it to everyone. He shifts stance at times. He'll be in, let's say he's in a southpaw stance. He'll shift forward to orthodox and he'll come over with the right hand. And he does the same thing with the left hook as well. He'll feint the right and he'll come through with the left hand. So I could see that exact same shot landing again, as crazy as it is. I honestly think Gregory Rodrigues is going to employ more of a grappling game plan in this one. He was able to get on top for a brief second. Brunno Ferreira was too strong, the Hulk, and he couldn't control him at all. But he did look semi-dominant for the time he was on top outside of the stand-up, and it was a very good stand-up, Brunno Ferreira. And I do think Gregory Rodrigues is the much higher level grappler in this fight and the better wrestler. So I do think he'll be able to take him down and control him on the mat. I mean, Gregory always has that in his back pocket, and he just honestly never uses it. I think being knocked out by Brunno once before, I think he'll probably use it in this fight. It's just a Russian roulette, though, anytime Gregory fights, because he fights these fighters who should knock him out, like CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan, and he styles on them. And then he fights these fighters who shouldn't knock him out, like Jordan Williams or Brunno Ferreira, and they do knock him out, So it is a Russian roulette with Gregory Rodrigues fights because his chin is always there to be cracked. And he is so aggressive. He puts himself in the firing range. I mean, I remember Chidi Njokwani cut him open badly in their fight because Gregory was just walking forward way too aggressively and got cut open brutally on the forehead. So, I could see something like that happening where he just gets too aggressive and gets caught. I do think he's going to be a little bit smarter, though, seeing that is his second fight and he's already been knocked out by this guy. Look, honestly, guys, Gregory could come in here, employ a good game plan and look minus 300, but I cannot trust him against a power puncher. I almost can never trust him against a power puncher in the UFC. I'm going to have to go and give the exact same prediction as I did in the first fight and say Brunno Ferreira lands a KO. I'm ready to look stupid on this one because I think if he doesn't KO him, he won't look value at all. He'll look like really bad and he'll get pieced up on the feet and also on the ground, So I am ready to look stupid. It's one of those underdog shots where there is a specific way he can win, but if he doesn't, he's going to look bad. Like he's not going to make it a close fight outside of the knockout, if you understand what I mean. There's some underdog shots where they're probably always going to be in a semi-close fight, right? So the underdog shot always looks good. There's some underdog shots where it's like, and some fights in general, where it's like, if they don't knock him out early, they're going to look terrible, but they've got a good chance of knocking him out early. Kind of like Michel Pereira versus Fluffy Hernandez. I know that one looked really bad, but I feel like Michel could knock Fluffy out a decent amount of time if they fight. If he doesn't knock him out in round one, he's just going to look absolutely terrible. And I kind of feel like that here. Ferreira has probably 2 rounds. He's more gas than Michel, like in that type of fight, in this dynamic. Ferreira has like 7-8 minutes to knock him out. To be honest, I could see him getting like a late knockout just because Gregory's chin is that bad and like he is hittable. Like he definitely... Because Brunno has gone 15 minutes, like he has looked all right in a 15-minute distance. He's also got dominated on the ground and stuff by Abus, so I don't know. But yeah, I could see a round 3 knockout, but mostly Ferreira has to knock him out in like the first round. If he doesn't, he's probably going to look bad. I went round the houses there, but I hope that makes sense. But I'm going to ultimately pick Brunno Ferreira just because I just feel like, underdog price, pretty big underdog price. He's already knocked him out once. He can definitely do it again. He can be down 2 rounds and still knock him out in round 3. It most likely will come early if it does. But yeah, I'm just going to pick Brunno Ferreira. I'm not confident in it, boys, but I can't pick Rodrigues. At the end of the day, boys, as I always say, picks are not bets, right? And I pick, for the most part, I pick where I believe the value is, right? I'm not going to pick Gregory Rodrigues at minus 200. I'm just not going to do it, boys, because he's too untrustworthy with his chin. Do I think he's going to win? That's a whole nother conversation. I'm not even going to go into that. I don't care if I think he's going to win. I'm not here to tell you who I think is going to win like that. I'm here to make you money on MMA. It's a completely different thing. Please understand this. I say it every week and people still don't understand. But ultimately, I'm going to go with Brunno Ferreira to be the value side in this fight. Next up, former champion in Cody Garbrandt taking on Long Xiao. Strange booking for me to see how the mighty have fallen. Cody usually fighting top talents now. He's taking on Long Xiao, someone with a pretty poor MMA record, all things considered. Cody Garbrandt coming into this fight with a record of 14-7. Long Xiao with the record that I just alluded to of 27 wins and 10 losses. Again, somewhat surprisingly, we see Long Xiao as the minus 160 favorite with the Underdog price tag on Cody Garbrandt coming back at plus 140. Yeah, weird one here, you know. It seems like every time Cody Garbrandt fights, we basically say, oh, how the mighty have fallen, and he was such a good fighter, and now he's just not that good anymore. And, you know, I'm not going to keep on saying it. At the end of the day, man, Cody Garbrandt is what he is at this point. You know, he's got fast hands, power if you brawl with him, but he's extremely low volume. His gas tank's not very good. He doesn't handle adversity that well. His chin is pretty bad. He gets caught a lot. He has some explosive wrestling, but no top control and no jiu-jitsu, really. So, I mean, that's what he is, you know? He's going up against Xiao Long here, Long Xiao, and this is a big step down in competition for him. I mean, you go from fighting Davison Figueiredo and Raoni Barcelos to Lao Zhong, Long Xiao. So that's a massive step down in competition, and he could just win the fight based on that. I mean, it really reminds me of the Cody Durden fight where these guys are both named Cody. They're both American. They're both fighting Asian fighters. They're both making a massive step down in competition. And they're both like plus 140, plus 150, plus 160 underdogs, you know? And they both could win. And they both like wrestling. Cody has the skills to win here, but I don't know if we can trust him at this point in time. It's 2026, you know? It's not 2021 anymore, you know? It's 2026. So Xiao Long, to me, he's a pretty good fighter. He just lacks something. I don't know what it is. In his last fight against Su Yung, he kind of let the fight slip away. I mean, arguably, he won the fight and he was an underdog. You always like to see the underdog win a split decision type fight. I remember after that fight, a lot of people were saying that Xiao Long was robbed and stuff like that. I'm not going to say it's a robbery. I need to go back and watch it and score it, because when I went back and watched it for this tape study purpose, I was not scoring it at all, you know, and it was a very close fight to me. I wasn't scoring it at all. I was watching it in relation to try to find some specific sequences that would relate to the Cody Garbrandt matchup. You know, I wasn't watching it to score it, but it seemed like an extremely close fight to me. As I say, you always want to see the underdog win a 50-50 fight. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think you can complain that much. Like, it was definitely a close fight. Xiao Long could have won it, probably should have won it, but he let the fight slip away from him. I could see him doing that here, you know, where he's kind of on the outside. He pushes the pace in round 3, but it's not early enough. Xiao Long has good cardio. You know, he comes through, he pushes a good pace in some fights, especially late, he starts to get going. Sometimes early, he takes a while to get going. I know he did get finished in round 3 2 fights ago, but I do think he has good round 3s in him. I have seen him fight well late into fights before and push the pace before. He's a decent wrestler. You know, he's pretty solid. He was taking down Chang Ho Lee in their fight multiple times, really. And Chang Ho Lee is a good wrestler in his own right. You know, he was pushing him up against the cage in round 1. Getting the body lock, the double underhooks, picking him up, slamming him down. He was looking good. Xiao Long gets taken down a lot himself, but he has great get-ups and great cardio. And oftentimes his opponents tire out from trying to take him down because he's just relentless with the get-up. So if Cody does implement some wrestling, which I expect him to do, I think he can get takedowns, but I don't think he can hold him down. But I do think he could potentially swing a round or two with a takedown like he did against Trevin Jones. Like I said, big step down for Cody Garbrandt. So I think early, Cody's going to be able to, you know, land his boxing. I think he's way faster than Xiao Long. One thing I noticed in the Su Yu fight, which wasn't really something that I was expecting, because I thought Su Yu might, you know, try and go for the grappling, but it really was a striking contest. But one thing I noticed in that fight was that Su was like quite fast, at least early, compared to Long, or at least they was comparative in the speed. And I think that means Cody Garbrandt's going to be way faster than Long in this fight. So I expect Cody to win round 1. I just don't know how round 2 and round 3 are going to go. But when you're talking about plus 140s, it might be a spot to bet Cody. I will say Cody not necessarily impressed me, but he impressed me that he was able to survive against Raoni Barcelos, because, you know, late into that fight, Barcelos was really pouring it on, man. And, you know, he did well to survive. I'll just say that. He got beat up, you know, but he did well to survive. And so it makes me believe that if it is round 3 and Long is going after him, he could also survive if he was able to survive Raoni Barcelos. And he already might be 2 rounds up to none by that point. I do think that, like almost every fight he fights, Long will start pushing the pressure in round 3, but it may be too late by that point. I'm going to actually pick Cody again. It's like, if he doesn't get hurt, he's probably going to win. He's probably a better boxer. He's probably faster. He's probably going to have more wrestling success than his opponent. But yeah, I'm going to pick Cody Garbrandt in this one. Another big step down in competition. Another underdog. And that's why I'm picking him, because I feel like it's a 50-50 fight, you know? So I'm picking another underdog here in Cody Garbrandt. Next up, we have another Dana White's Contender Series prospect, Donte Johnson, taking on the legend of MMA and UFC, Cody Brundage. Donte Johnson has a a great record, 7 wins, 0 losses, yet to taste defeat in his professional career. Cody Brundage, on the other hand, has tasted defeat many times. 11 wins, 8 losses, 1 draw. Currently, they have Donte Johnson as the massive minus 500 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Cody Brundage sitting at plus 375 odds. So here we are, boys. Brundage, the Brundage effect is back in full effect. You know, I was actually lucky enough to watch Cody Brundage live against Cam Ralston, front row at UFC Sydney. That was a good watch. And I mean, what an easy one. Cam Ralston round 2 or round 3. It seemed like an easy one. Cody Brundage rocked Cam Ralston there. You know, I don't think a lot of people saw it, but I was live, so I was able to see it. And he actually rocked him pretty badly. I think it was in round 2, if I remember correctly. You can't really see it on the broadcast as much, but being there live, I was cage side, I could actually see it. So Brundage is always in these fights, you know. I actually think he's coming up against an athletic freak in this fight. I think he's coming up against someone who has real talent. Or I should say this. I think he's coming up against someone who has a real high ceiling in the division. I don't know whether he's going to live up to the hype and the ceiling that he could reach. I don't know whether he's going to reach it, but I think athletically, the way he's put together, the power in his boxing game, the composure that he showed in the octagon against Dumas in some other fights, the strength. I think Donte Johnson, being a much lighter weight class now, has a good chance to really put together a solid win streak. But obviously, he's still very raw in MMA. It's kind of crazy that Brundage is coming into this fight because he took some bad punishment to some degree against Cam Ralston. And as I said, I watched that live. That wasn't long ago. It feels like just a couple of weeks ago I was in Sydney. In reality, it was like 6 weeks ago. You know, it wasn't long at all. It might have even been less than that. I haven't even checked the date. Now this guy's fighting again. He's coming in on 2 or 3 weeks short notice to this fight against someone in Donte Johnson who is extremely athletic, hits very hard. I think Donte's going to knock him out. You know, I don't have much more to say about this one, boys. I think Donte Johnson via knockout is what's going to happen here. And that's it. We seem to have now got into the Dana White's Contender Series part of the card, as we have a Dana White's Contender Series alumni, Alberto Montes, taking on the Ultimate Fighter alumni, Ricky Turcios. Alberto Montes coming into this fight with a record of 10 wins, 1 loss. Ricky Turcios, on the other hand, 12 wins with 5 losses. Alberto Montes sitting as a minus 185 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Ricky Turcios coming back at plus 160 odds. So guys, if you know me, you know that I pick against Ricky Turcios most of the time when he's scheduled for fights. A lot of times the fight doesn't even end up happening, like the Cameron Smotherman fight, like the Raul Rosas Jr. fight for the first time. But I usually not bet against him because it's all price dependent. Oftentimes I don't, but I usually pick against him because I don't think that he has a great skill set to win fights in the UFC. He doesn't have a lot of power and he doesn't separate himself with damage or submission attempts or control time. You know, to win a UFC fight, you have to be very good at knocking someone out or submitting someone out or winning a decision, right? Ricky Turcios isn't good at knocking people out. He isn't good at submitting people. He can submit people, you know, but he's not good at it. And so the only thing left is a decision, right? To win a decision, joking, I love you. To win a decision, you need to be able to either threaten KO or submission attempts, which we've already said that he doesn't, you know, consistently, or you need to win minutes. To win minutes, you need to land a lot of volume on your opponents, right? Striking volume, or control them on the ground. He doesn't land a lot of volume. Sometimes he throws a lot of volume, but oftentimes the volume isn't anything that the judges care about because it's not landing with any power or even landing at all. In some strange fights that he's had, where like the Ayman Zahabi fight where he's literally punching air for 15 minutes, you know, judges can't score that. So the only thing left really is grappling and control time, and he's not a physical fighter. He's very unphysical, actually. He's a very good scrambler, but he gets taken down himself. He's not physical. He's not good at wrestling. He's not, so like, I've just gone through every single way you can win a UFC fight, and Ricky Turcios doesn't really, you know, he doesn't really do any of it. Now, yes, he can win by pace and pressure and land in some volume if he does do it, but it's slim margins for him to win a UFC fight. So I'm going to pick Alberto Montes, the newcomer here. I don't think Montes is great, to be honest, from what I've seen of him. He's basically a merchant for that front headlock position. He just sells out for the anaconda choke. That's all he really has. You know, he has a high guard at times and he throws a teep down the middle and he has some decent 1-2s, but I mean, outside of that, he's basically just selling out for the anaconda choke. But I think he's probably a better striker than Ricky Turcios. Just from what I've seen on tape, he probably has more power and he's just probably a better striker overall. I think Ricky Turcios could throw more volume and even land more volume than him, though. But I will pick Montes in the striking just about. I also think that, you know, he has a very good anaconda choke, you know, and when he cinches it up, he really, really sells out for it. And I do think that could submit Ricky Turcios here. I think Ricky Turcios is a pretty decent grappler. I don't think that many guys would just run through and submit him. But if you've got a specialist, which we do here with Montes with the Anaconda, I could see him submitting Ricky Turcios for sure here. You know, Ricky kind of likes to walk forward and get in kind of like a brawl where he's just out voluming you. But Montes ain't going to do that. I don't think Montes is going to stand in the middle and brawl with Ricky. You know, and if he does, he's probably got more power. But I don't think he will. I think he'll stand on the outside. I think he'll throw his kicks. I think he'll throw his 1-2s. I think he'll dance around the outside. And then if the pressure gets too much, if Ricky starts to close distance, I think that the guillotine and even the strength of Montes will be there to get him out of trouble. You know, Montes can be taken down and dominated on the ground like we've seen in most of his fights, honestly, even the Dana White's Contender Series fight at times, and also in the fight before that where he got the Anaconda choke as well. They was taking him down at will. But I don't think Ricky Turcios is as strong as those guys, so I don't think he's going to be able to do it. Yeah, he can get a takedown, but I think Montes can reverse. I think Montes can get a takedown of his own as well. They're both quite unphysical, they seem, you know. So yeah, I just feel like Montes is the side here. I'm not confident about it, boys, but I'm going to pick Alberto Montes to get this one done with an Anaconda choke for the third time in a row. Next up, we have a very exciting matchup in the flyweight division. Some people may be sleeping on this one, but I'm going to tell you now, it's definitely going to be a banger. We have Cody Durden taking on Nyamjargal Tumendemberel. Cody Durden coming into this fight, 17 wins, 9 losses, 1 draw, with Nyamjargal Tumendemberel coming into this fight with 9 wins and only 1 loss. Somewhat surprisingly, Nyamjargal Tumendemberel is sitting as a pretty big favorite here, minus 165 odds, with the underdog price tag on Cody Durden coming back at plus 145. So this is going to be a banger, guys. I think we may have the craziest fighter in MMA today in Nyamjargal Tumendemberel facing Cody Durden this weekend. And like I said in the introductions, I am a little bit surprised about the odds to see Cody Durden such a wide underdog. And the reason is because Cody Durden has been in there with the best of them and competed with the best of them. I mean, if you're talking just strictly records and level of competition, Cody Durden clears Tumendemberel with ease. I mean, Cody Durden has been in there with the likes of Alan Nascimento, Jose Ochoa, Joshua Van, Tagir Ulanbekov, Mohamed Mokayev, Charles Johnson. I mean, the list goes on. This guy has fought the best of the best, and now he's a big underdog to some, or at least a, moderate underdog to someone who's he fought? Carlos Hernandez, his best fighter he's ever fought, and he didn't even win that fight. It's kind of crazy. But then, so that's the first thing that stands out to me, and I always like to tell you guys the first thing that stands out to me, or at least half the time I like to start with that, because it is something that stands out to me in this fight. But something else that stands out to me, which always stands out to me in every fight, is the stylistic nature of the fight. Because we can look at the level of competition and we can look at the intangibles, but we need to look at the stylistic nature of the fight as well, because more often than not, that is what really determines the fight. Now, as I always say, boys, there's only 3 ways to handicap an MMA fight. There's only 3 ways to predict an MMA fight, right? It's stylistically, statistically, and then intangibly, right? What the intangibles going into the fight. So we've spoke of some of the intangibles, which is the level of competition that is an intangible. And if we look stylistically, we see that Nyamjargal Tumendemberel is a stylistic nightmare for people who cannot handle pressure, have a bad chin, or don't really like to brawl. Because that's exactly what this guy does. He has a great chin, he loves to brawl, and he has crazy power. And he's extremely aggressive. So he's going to walk forward into range in every single fight and throw absolute hammers. And he's going to almost have complete disregard of his own safety because he believes in his chin, he believes in his power as well. And that's a deadly combination. It can be deadly to him because it can get him hurt and knocked out. It hasn't happened yet, but I do believe one day it will happen because, when he goes up against some of these sharp shooters, they're just going to knock him out, man, because he's just way too aggressive and he's not a great striker. He's just an aggressive striker. Speaking about not being a great striker, but being an aggressive striker, he won a lot of moments on the feet against someone who was a much better striker than him in Top Noi Kerwam. And the reason he did that is just because of how aggressive he is. So I always say on this show that, boys, it's not always about being the best striker or the most skilled striker. Sometimes it's about being the most effective striker, and there's lots of other things that goes into that. For example, chin and power. Those are really the main things. And honestly, sometimes just willingness to brawl. If you're willing to brawl and put it on the line and your opponent's not, you may be able to catch him in that brawl, because you're going to be throwing more shots. You're going to be landing more shots, most likely, than the guy who's trying to evade the brawl. Not all the time, but it can do. So I feel like Cody Durden, I think he's going to be in some trouble in this fight because Tumendemberel has a much better chin than him and much better power, And one thing I'll say is that Cody Durden is getting rocked and dropped and hurt in almost every fight. in the UFC. It's kind of crazy. I just want to go through Cody Durden's record with you right now, and I will talk you through some of these fights. Some of them I have watched recently, some of them I haven't watched in tape study for this fight, but every single one I have watched at one point and I know what happened. So if we look at his last fight against Alan Nascimento, he got clipped there, and then Alan Nascimento jumped on a submission, was able to choke him out. The fight before that, Jose Ochoa knocked him out in round 2. The fight before that against Joshua Van hurt him so many times in that fight. The fight before that, Matt Schnell was teeing off on Cody Durden for most of the fight until Cody ended up finishing Matt Schnell himself. The fight before that, Cody Durden got knocked out again by Bruno Silva. The fight before that, Tagir Ulanbekov knocked down, hurt Cody Durden badly, and then choked him out. The fight before that was the Jake Hadley fight, where he didn't necessarily got hurt that badly on the feet, but he was in some deep submission attempts. Boys, every single fight has been a tough going for Cody Durden. He's won some of those, he's lost a lot of those, but he's always got hurt in every single one of those or submitted. So this guy seems like he can never have a clean run. He doesn't really ever have a clean fight. He's a dog. I respect Cody Durden. He's never going to stop fighting, but he's got a big issue with getting hurt and submitted. And against someone like Tumendemberel, it's definitely a dangerous combination, because Tumendemberel is way less skilled than Cody Durden. Cody Durden's a better striker and wrestler and grappler, but he's got a way worse chin with less power. And Tumendemberel is going to aggressively pursue the finish, and I just don't know if Cody Durden will survive it. The massive flaw in Tumendemberel's game is his grappling, So if we go and watch his fight against Carlos Hernandez, he was taken down multiple times there, and that's why he lost the fight. But even in that fight, he dropped Carlos Hernandez in round 1 and dropped him in round 3. One judge scored that fight for him. He lost most of the fight, almost all of the fight, but he still almost knocked out Carlos Hernandez. 2 times he dropped him. So that's the type of fighter we have. He's not a minutes guy. He's never going to be winning the minutes. Tumendemberel is not a guy who's going to go out there and have a clean 15-minute performance, but he doesn't need to. He only needs one moment. So against Cody Durden, it's kind of a recipe for disaster. On the same token, he can get taken down easily. Like I said, Carlos Hernandez took him down, took his back, etc. He did well not to really ever get in massive danger on the ground. Carlos was nowhere near finishing, whereas Tumen was near finishing Carlos a couple of times. But he was grappled, he was controlled, and even in a top Noi fight, he was reversed in that fight. He was taken down by a Muay Thai striker. It was a very bad look. I do think he's improving defensive, because I saw clear improvements in that Carlos Hernandez fight in his defensive grappling, because he reversed Carlos Hernandez a couple of times and it actually led to the knockdown in round 1, I've seen clear improvements from him in the defensive grappling and the jiu-jitsu, etc. But I still think Cody's going to have a massive advantage there. So, boys, it really comes down to, do you think Cody's going to be able to avoid getting hurt or submitted? Because if so, he's going to dominate Tumendemberel. He's a better striker and he's a better grappler. He's just going to take him down, rinse and repeat. I could easily see Cody winning this fight. It's a very, very tough fight for me to call, boys. I feel like it's close to a 50-50 fight, so I'm going to pick Cody Durden because he's the underdog here. And if you have an underdog, but you're saying the fight's 50-50, automatically that's the value side. I think if you bet on Cody Durden, you're going to be sweating for 15 minutes. And Tumendemberel has put moments on every single fighter he's ever fought, even in his loss against Carlos Hernandez. So I think it's going to be a frustrating bet if you bet Cody, because he's probably going to be winning until he doesn't. I don't know what I'm going to do with the fight yet. I want to bet Cody because I feel like he's way better and he's taking a big step down in competition, but I can't ignore Cody getting hurt or subbed in 7 of his last 7 fights. I mean, is it just going to not happen here? He's probably fighting the worst fighter he's ever fought here. So maybe, we know what happens when these fights take step down in competition. But again, man, it's just tough to trust someone who's been hurt in 7 of his last 7 fights. Not even 6 of last 7. It's tough, man. So my prediction is Cody Durden. But I think you get what my thoughts on the fight are after that breakdown. Boys, before we get into the last few fights, I want to say something. Not many people know this, but I give out hundreds of dollars every single month in my private Telegram completely for free. I do giveaways for the people in my Telegram. So you can join my Telegram for free down below. The link is in the bio. The link is in the description, I should say. You can join the Telegram, wait for a giveaway, and I give you money away for free. I also give bets out there. I give a lot of advice out there, a lot of sports betting advice, which are oftentimes way more important than betting, and a bunch of other stuff. Free bets, free advice, and free money. So join the Telegram down below in the description for all of that good stuff. But as I mentioned, if you want the actual bets I place every single week, then the link is also in the description for that. Moving on in the card, we have Sumudaerji a UFC veteran at this point, a semi-veteran at least, taking on Jesus Aguilar, who is on a very decent run in the UFC, all things considered. The guy keeps on grinding out wins. Sumudaerji coming into this fight with a record of 18 wins, 7 losses. Jesus Aguilar, on the other hand, 12 wins, 3 losses. In this one, they have Sumudaerji as the minus 220 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Jesus Aguilar coming back at plus 185 odds. Yeah, I gotta take Su in this one, boys, and I'll be quick with this one. Just because I'm quick with this one doesn't mean it's like a super confident prediction or anything. I just think there's not too much to talk about. I mean, Sumudaerji has fought a much higher level of competition. He has beat a much higher level of competition as well as lost to them. And he's looked good in some of these losses, like Matt Schnell. Now, I know that, his grappling didn't necessarily look great in that fight, but I feel like he's improved his grappling massively. He took some time away, he came back. He was out grappling Charles Johnson, which I think is a big feather in his cap. And he just looks like the better fighter than Jesus Aguilar overall. Now, Aguilar's going to come in there and try and throw some heavy hands, and he probably has commensurate more power than Su, but Su is way sharper, probably could get no more knockouts even if Aguilar has more power. As I say, it's not always, striking is an interesting art. It's not all about how much power you got. Sometimes it's about how much accuracy you got, what shots that your opponent does not see coming, etc., etc. But yeah, Aguilar probably has the power advantage. Does he have a durability advantage? Maybe. But at the end of the day, man, Su is just such a high-level striker for flyweight against anyone that I don't think Aguilar is going to have much success there outside of a random knockdown, which could happen, but it's more unlikely than Su just outpointing him and even hurting him a couple of times. So really, Jesus needs to get his grappling going. Sumudaerji has had fighters trying to take him down for his entire career. And as I said, his defensive grappling has got better and better. So I feel like he'd be able to stay on the feet and just outpoint him. It seems like a straightforward fight for Sumudaerji. If Jesus Aguilar is able to get to his patented guillotine, I think he could submit any man. He's submitted multiple fighters with the guillotine. He's got a very good guillotine. And I do think he can submit Sumudaerji if he gets to the guillotine position. I just can't be confident he's going to get to it. I mean, Su's not going to shoot on him. Su's taller than him, so it's not just going to be a matter of like jumping on, pulling his head down and jumping on the guillotine. Jesus will probably need to take him down and methodically jump on the guillotine, and Su's going to be training that. Su's at Team Alpha Male. I mean, he's getting wrestled all the time. Like, he's going to be getting guillotined in that training room often. He's not an idiot. He knows that that's what's coming in this fight. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it just means that he has more of a chance to defend it. I mean, we remember Punahele Soriano taking on Ramiz Brahima not too long ago, and really, all you need to train for with Brahima, for the most part, is that front headlock, and Puna was smart with that. He knew, he got caught in it once, I believe, but outside of that, he stayed smart with keeping his head in the right positions, and I feel like Su has to do that to win. That's really Jesus' only coherent path. So I'm picking Su to win this fight. I'm picking Su to win it via decision because, Jesus is a tough Mexican dude. I don't know why they didn't put him on UFC Mexico, which was like last week. It doesn't really make sense to me. It is what it is. They put him on the pay-per-view, probably better to some degree. But yeah, I do think that Jesus loses a decision here to Sumudaerji. Next up, we have Rafael Tobias taking on Diyar Nurgozhay. Rafael Tobias coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins, 1 loss. Very shiny record there, fresh off a great Dana White's Contender Series performance. While Diyar Nurgozhay has a record of 10 wins, 2 losses, but those 2 losses are in his last 2 fights. So he's on a 2-fight losing streak now, 0-2 in the UFC. Looking to win this fight, otherwise he may get cut. He is also a Contender Series prospect, so 2 Dana White's Contender Series winners facing off against each other here. Yeah, so we might have a Louis Garuli case here where Diyar looked kind of good, but then he just loses 3 in a row and gets cut from the UFC. We may have that here because he hasn't got an easy fight against Rafael Tobias. Something that stood out for me in this fight is that Tobias is 22 years old, but his record is 14-1, so I don't really understand that. His first fight listed at 2022, which would make him 18 years old, 17 or 18, depending on when his birthday is. I didn't do the maths. And then he had 6 fights that calendar year. 6 fights in 1 year for an MMA fighter is absolutely abnormal, but obviously on the regional scene, especially in Brazil, sometimes they build up these fighters and they give them easy wins. So he amassed a 14-1 record coming into Contender Series, and he impressed me on Contender Series, to be honest. He's a big favorite, but he did go in there. He looked calm, he looked patient, he looked composed, landed some very good boxing combinations, and was able to showcase his wrestling and grappling. And as soon as he got on top, he mounted the guy and was able to choke him out, even with the hooks not completely in, and he wasn't in a great position. So I think Tobias could be good. It's hard to know how good these Contender Series guys are because they fight nobodies on the regional scene, then you're minus 500 in contenders. It's like, how can we know how good you are really? Honestly, the one time this guy actually fought in any reputable organization was LFA, and he got knocked out in that fight as a minus 500 favorite. So it's like, let's just pump the brakes. But also, that was a couple of years ago. He's 22, so he's definitely learning. And stylistically, not stylistically, but to the eyes, passing the eye test. Does he pass the eye test? Yes, he does. He looks like he's got some good attributes about him. I definitely like that he is, first and foremost, a grappler. I mean, in a lot of fights, I've seen him grapple, which is a very good look in this higher weight class, this light heavyweight and heavyweight weight class, because these guys can't grapple at all. We saw what happened with Jolt and Almeida taking over both divisions just because he could grapple a little bit. And then on the feet, he looks a lot better than he did in his old tape. I'll say that. So I kind of have semi-high hopes for Tobias. I think he could be all right. He could be like a Petrino type, where he does get starched against someone maybe like Jacoby, but then, he can still win the good few fights, and he's got power in his hands, and he kind of reminds me of Petrino a little bit, to be honest. He's very athletic, etc., etc. But let's just see what we have, let's just see what he actually is, because Diyar, Nurgozhay, I thought he was pretty good as well, and I've been proved completely wrong. He seems to be not good at all. And the main thing about Diyar, I don't think it's his skill set is bad or anything like that, because I think skill-wise, he's actually got good skills. Obviously, there are a few things lacking. I mean, his jiu-jitsu seems kind of terrible. Getting reversed by a Kimura with Brenson Ribeiro and having a terrible performance in your debut and then getting submitted by Uran that easily. His jiu-jitsu's probably shit. But outside of that, it looks like he's got good skills. But the issue with him is I don't think he has great will to win. I don't think he does well under pressure. I don't think he does well when he gets cracked. He seems to look for the door a little bit. And I mean, at light heavyweight, these are things that you really need to survive. You can't be afraid of getting hit, or you can't be a quitter. And I'm not saying he is any of these things. I'm just talking in that same bracket, You can't be someone who doesn't like adversity. You can't be someone who... Because you're going to find adversity in a light heavyweight division, because everyone that hits you, it's going to feel kind of hard. You know what I mean? And if someone gets on top of you, you might not get up. Whereas in the flyweight, you can probably scramble out of it, So I think that these intangibles are really what makes Diyar a loser in MMA so far, or in the UFC. He's 0-2 in the UFC, and I can't pick him now. Missed weight in his debut, lost against someone who's not good, and so I can't pick him in this fight. I have to pick Tobias. This guy's the A side. He's 22. He's young. He's improving. He looks very good on the feet. Well, he looks good on the feet. He's still open to be cracked, but he looks good on the feet with big power. The big thing for me, boys, is that he looks like a much better grappler already than Diyar. If he takes him down once, it could be a matter of just submitting him after a minute or two. I mean, Uran submitting him with an Ezekiel choke within the first 3 minutes is kind of bullish. The fight before that, Brenson Ribeiro reversing him with a Kimura sweep at light heavyweight, it's just... It looks really bad, So I feel like Tobias is going to go out there and probably submit him. He could easily hurt him on the feet and knock him out as well. But yeah, I'll go with Tobias to win inside the distance, probably in round 1 again. Next up, Gaston Bolaños taking on Jeong Lee. Gaston Bolaños coming into this fight with a record of 8 wins, 5 losses. Jeong Lee, the Korean Tiger, 11 wins, 3 losses. Jeong Lee sitting as a minus 255 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Gaston Bolaños coming back at plus 215 odds. I think Jeong Lee gets back on track in this one, boys. I mean, Gaston Bolaños made it to the UFC. Congratulations to him. And I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but I've never really rated him as a fighter. I don't think he's UFC level personally, and I've bet against him multiple times in the UFC. And I've cashed a lot of money doing that. Gaston Bolaños is meant to be like this elite striker. That's what, people always say, Muay Thai champion and stuff like that. But I think Lee's a better striker. He's a much better boxer in my opinion. Hits harder, sharper, faster, better at landing his shots, more accuracy. I mean, I just think he's a better striker. And I think we're going to see that. I think Jeong Lee's going to hurt him to the head and probably knock him out. I don't really know what else to say about this one. Gaston Bolaños doesn't have any wrestling upside in this fight. He might go for a couple of takedowns. But like I said, the guy's meant to be a decorated Muay Thai striker. That's what he's known for, striking. I don't think he's going to come in here with a wrestling game plan and be able to really win that way. I mean, even in the fight against Daniel Santos, who wrestled him to an oblivion, he was still doing well at times to get back up to his feet, land shots there. But we've seen now that Daniel Santos is a force to be reckoned with. The guy shoots 20 takedowns. A fighter, I mean, it's very hard to deal with that type of style. And Jeong Lee didn't get finished, still looked pretty decent in that fight. I was expecting him to look better and win, but it doesn't really matter if we put that into context talks with Daniel Santos being a really good fighter, then we can say that Junyoung Lee's performance wasn't actually that bad after all. And I mean, this step down in competition is humongous, boys. I mean, going from Daniel Santos, and even Hyder and Mill, but let's just talk about his last fight. Going from Daniel Santos to Gaston Bolaños, I mean, Lee should get back on track and get a knockout in this one. You know, that's what I truly believe. I think he's more durable. I think he's a better striker. And I think that Bolaños has no wrestling upside over 15 minutes. So it's a clear-cut one for me. And if you didn't know what my prediction was, Junyoung Lee via stoppage. Next up, we have an undefeated Dana White's Contender Series product, Luke Fernandez taking on Rodolfo Bellato. Luke Fernandez coming into this fight, as I mentioned, undefeated with a record of 6-0. Rodolfo Bellato, on the other hand, a record of 12 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw. Luke Fernandez sitting as a pretty big minus 220 favorite with the underdog price tag on Rodolfo Bellato coming back at plus 185 odds. So this is a pretty good one, boys. You know, Rodolfo Bellato is always in exciting fights to some degree. I mean, even if his fights are not so exciting, he's always going to push the pace. He's always going to push the pressure. He's going to ask questions of his opponent no matter who he fights. Yes, he could get iced early, like in that first Vitor Petrino fight. Yes, he could get iced in round 2, like in that second Vitor Petrino fight. But outside of that, this guy's last into a decision, even though he's getting molly-whopped and dropped and hurt in a lot of fights, including fights against fighters who are not that good, you know, like Ihor Peteria. I don't know how he didn't get knocked out in that one. But the guy's going to put the pace and pressure on you and probably get hurt in the process, but he doesn't care because he's used to getting hurt. He's used to taking some punishment, but he's also used to coming back. He's used to weathering the storm, pushing back and breaking you. And he's taking on someone who's making their UFC debut here, Luke Fernandez, who looks like a very good fighter. He had a great win on Dana White's Contender Series as a minus 1450 favorite, where he got a knockout in 15 seconds by his patented left hook, right straight combo. I believe that's what it was. I know it was the right straight to put him down. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head here. But it's not an easy fight. You know, it's not an easy fight for someone making a UFC debut taking on Rodolfo Bellato. Because Bellato's, you got to catch him with the cleanest shot to knock him out. If you don't knock him out, he's going to be there all 15 minutes. He's got good cardio. He's got good leg kicks. He throws to all levels, leg kicks, body shots, and head shots, which a lot of fighters just don't do. So you have to worry about a lot. You know, you put your high guard up to defend the shots to the head, and then he's just low kicking you, ripping you to the legs. And then you're trying to check the leg kicks and he's jabbing you to the head. Then you come up with a high guard again and he's landing big shots to the body. Like a lot of fighters don't do that, but he does do that. And like I said, just a tough, durable guy with good cardio, man. I do think Luke Fernandez is the better fighter though. And I think Luke Fernandez does pass the Rodolfo Bellato test here. I think Luke Fernandez has big grappling upside, although it's been very hard to take Rodolfo Bellato down in his career. He has 94% takedown defense in the UFC. I have seen him taken down before, not only in the UFC, but on the regionals. But in the UFC, Navajo Sterling, who is basically a striker, was able to take him down. Not only take him down, keep him down. Fernandez does go to the wrestling in a lot of his fights when he isn't having elite striking success. So I feel like if anyone gets takedowns, it's probably going to be him. Bellato will shoot as well. Like I said, Bellato does everything, but I think that Fernandez has the grappling advantage here. And I also think he has the striking advantage, to be honest. I mean, Fernandez's best shot is that left hook, and I could see that left hook landing here. That left hook is what put Rodolfo Bellato out already from Vitor Petrino, so I could most certainly see it happening again. And I really do think Fernandez lands that left hook very, very well. You know, he does it to all his opponents for the most part, and some of them survive, some of them don't. He already got left hook knockouts on his record, and he has fights where he's won via decision, like the Christian Edwards fight, where the left hook was really pinging Christian Edwards and actually hurt him. And on another day, he probably would have got a knockout there. So very interested to see the left hook in this fight, boys. I think the left hook could be a fight ender or at least fight changer, or at least round winner if he doesn't get the knockout. So I'll pick Fernandez here. I think he's a good fighter. I think he can match Bellato in the toughness, the durability, the will to win, and the cardio. But then I also believe his skill set is just higher, you know, and his upside in the division is higher as well. And his career trajectory, 6-0 undefeated. I mean, there's lots to go. There's lots to like on the Luke Fernandez side. The only worry here is it is his debut. Fighters do often underperform on their debut. If you didn't know that, now you know. That's a legitimate thing that happens. UFC jitters, debut nerves are a real thing in the UFC. But that's really the only way I see Fernandez losing this fight, is if it's too much for him on his debut. Because I feel like if they rematch in 3-4 years and Fernandez has had 3-4 fights in the UFC, he wins the fight fairly cleanly. So my prediction is Luke Fernandez to get this one done. So that's it, boys. UFC 326 done. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope we cash this week, but more importantly, I hope we keep cashing for years and years to come over the long term. So that's it, boys. And if you want to see a documentary I made on Charles Oliveira and Max Holloway, it's going to be somewhere on the screen right here. Peace out and enjoy the fights this weekend.